I'd like to call the September 16th Personnel Committee meeting to order. Dana, could you take roll call, please?
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Dale Weichel.
Here.
Richard Budney.
Here.
Frank Presco.
Here.
We stand and say the pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dale, could we remain standing for a moment and have a moment of silence?
Yeah. Everybody, I think, knows that Tom Trainer passed away, and he's really going to be missed and, by everyone. And just maybe it could be a good thing to take a moment of silence for him.
Tom
Thank
served
you.
this committee well as the Civil Service Subcommittee was
Right.
on that. So
Yeah, he was always willing to donate his time.
he was always here.
Yes. Okay, item 2, citizen comment period.
Hi, Brad Pulaski, 8901 Dress Lab. Do you want me by a mic or is this fine here?
You could sit right here by the mic.
How's everyone doing tonight? Good. All right, good. Most of you know me already. For those that don't, I'm over on the fire department. I'm the union president for Local 2760. I know we have agenda item number 7, vacation accruals for lateral transfers in the fire department. This has been an ongoing discussion we've had for a couple of years. Back in 2016 is when we brought in, I think it was 2016 contract, we brought in lateral transfers. We were the first fire department in the area that's done it. Since then, almost every department has been bringing in lateral transfers. And the lateral transfer is basically, instead of us just putting out a blanket application, we give some type of benefit for an individual that already has worked as a fire service somewhere else, another department, what have you. They come here and we give them a little bit of benefit. Okay, so whether it's a little bit earlier vacation accrual time, maybe a little higher pay starting, because it's not always easy going from top pay somewhere else and let's say Milwaukee, and then come over to Franklin and drop down to the bottom pay. So we've been working with them. Our language is very vague in the contract. Chief and I, and actually Chief Remington and I, the previous Chief Remington and I have been trying to tighten up this language, make it a little more advantageous for individuals. Since then, Chief Mayor and I, we've been working together as well. Okay, so we're coming, and I brought this back up again because Chief Mayor is going off the draft that was done by Mastino a year and a half, 2 years ago. This email went out. I don't have the date in front of me exactly.
I believe it was 2022.
It was 20, okay, so about 2 years ago. Thank you. And we're just talking about like vacation accruals and the ability to give a lateral transfer, someone that has the experience, that has the knowledge, that is easier a plug and play, so to speak, to come into our organization and be utilized. About a year and a half ago, we were looking for some individuals, and one of the firefighters that put in was from Greendale, currently employed at Greendale, was there for 18 years, was going to come over by us. For whatever reason, Chief Remington didn't go with him. He went for another person. Okay, but if we would have hired him, he would have came in with this draft language. He would have came in with 12 years of service brought in, not city time. So he saw the bottom seniority for seniority stuff, but he would have got 12 years of credible service brought to him based off of Mastino and Chief Remington at the time language that they drafted with us. We all collaborated together in the office one day talking about this. I thought it was a done deal. I didn't realize it was still a draft version. Okay? So that individual didn't get hired at 18 year and a half ago. He got hired 3 months ago, 3.5, 4 months ago. Since that point, he actually left, and now he came from Western Lakes. So he's outside of the county. So yes, he had 18 years in the county in Milwaukee, at Greendale. Due to a technicality now, because he decided to go to Western Lakes, he's looking for a change for family reasons. He's in Western Lakes. We hired him, And now, again, nothing against what the chief said. He's going off the language here. We're going to give him 7.5 years of credible service to come here with his 19.5 years of knowledge, his 19.5 years of experience. With that being said, he was put on a shift with one less RO because of some promotions and the retirements that we've had, etc. So we put him on, I don't want to say less season shift. We put him in a spot where he's going to shine a little bit better because of his experience. We're leaning on his experience on that shift. That's why we put him in there. Okay? If that makes sense. With that said, though, with that 7.5 years, I don't think that does him justice for coming here with his 19.5 years of service. I think he should be at least at 11.5. Skip the year and a half that he wasn't with us. So give him the 19 years or the 18 years, drop it down, give him the whole 11.5 or 12. I'm sorry, 12 years. I'm sorry, I said 11.5. 12 years. That's where I think he should be at, according to this draft. That's what I thought was in play as the union president in the discussions we had in the past and the emails I had. I didn't realize it wasn't adopted. So he came over here doing all this, and all of a sudden he found out he got 7.5 years. And then 3 minutes ago, I just got given a different draft version saying that for those come from Milwaukee County with the exact experience needed to immediately step in and perform City of Franklin firefighter paramedic duties, the following is applicable, which is essentially everything I gave, but again, max is 7.5 years. So I just got this. I didn't even get a chance to read through the whole thing before you started the meeting. Okay? My thing is, I just feel that this individual, yes, he was outside the county. He had to jump through a couple of hoops to get inside a Milwaukee County paramedic and to be plug and play. But there's no difference. Milwaukee County has a lot less skills than he's doing in Western Lakes. He does a lot more paramedic skills out there than he does in Milwaukee County. It's not like we're doing anything that special. We just tighten up our medications. We tighten up some of our skill set because we're so close to hospitals. That's why we do that. Okay, so them out in the open area, they have more medications, more skills. They have a broader range of skill set available to them and protocols. Ours is a little tighter. Right now, if I drove home, got in an accident, I was outside of, if I missed work for a year and a half on long-term disability, I would go through the same exact hoops that this individual just went through. Even though I was here the whole entire time, I'd still have to do the same stuff because I was out a year and a half. It's just Milwaukee County rules and regulations to get back in. He still has 19.5 years experience. He's still at 18 within the county. His department ran the same exact way as us for the most part. We're very, very similar to cross staffing. I just want some consideration for this individual. At the very least, if you want to take this on, then fine, we'll take the new language that's just brought up, but he was hired months before this, so I feel he should have some type of leniency, I guess. I'm just looking for your approval, or at least strong consideration for an individual that does have 19.5 years experience that came here. I understand that we don't typically do this stuff, but we've also been, as you've heard from all the years past, the last 3 years, 4 years, whatever it's been, our numbers we're not increasing and getting multiple applications not over and over again. That's why we're doing this lateral transfer. That's why we want to tighten up some of the language so I don't have to come here again to ask for lenience for one other individual that should deserve it, okay? Chief and I, there's other discussion points we want to add. We want to put some stuff in the contract so that way it's black and white and we know what it is from here out. But I'm going off of the old draft, and do they have the copy of the old draft?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm going on for the old draft. That's why I thought was adopted. Negligence on my part, yes, because I assumed that was adopted, but that's what the language that I was going off of, okay? I have one last point, and I don't recall. Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, again, I think his years' experience and the fact that we're utilizing him with his skill set in the shift that we put him on, I think that kind of says a lot for the individual. We've got the lateral language just to help entice people and bring them over here. And it's done very well for us. We got a handful from Milwaukee. their fire experience has been great, and they've passed on a lot of knowledge to us. Their med skills are great because some of the traumas and stuff they have gone to, and what they passed on to us has been great things for us. It's been great for our training, great for our discussions. It's been very, very well received all around. But I mean, this lateral language is going to start. We're going to start losing our legs and laterals because other departments are doing it. Everyone's doing it now. It's almost like free agency. Milwaukee Fire Department's going to be taking laterals. We could possibly lose people to Milwaukee if they want to get more fires and everything else, or whatever that city of Milwaukee brings them. They're going to be actually taking laterals coming up soon. So I know I'm getting long in the wind here. Sorry about that. I appreciate you letting me talk, though. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to stay for all this, so I'll get more help.
Can I ask him a question?
No.
I can't.
No, we're
I
not
wanted to
allowed,
clarify what this exactly.
unless there's a motion made to suspend rules.
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
I just wanted to have some clarification
Yes, sir.
in my mind what we're talking about. So we have a person that works in Milwaukee County and they have accrued 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if I heard you correctly, you're saying that you would like to see that 15 years carried over to Franklin.
Not full 15. I'm in agreement to a good chunk of this.
Okay,
So they get the
so you
5.
agree. So this is like a general rule here. This is a general rule, X amount will be applied.
Yes.
But for this individual you're discussing, you're asking for an exception.
Yes.
That's an exception, right? Not,
I am asking an exception, yes. Technically,
okay,
yes.
that's what.
Because he had 18 years with Greendale. If he would hire originally, he'd have 12 years coming
I
here.
just was not clear in my mind whether we were talking about having one rule applied to everyone, like to carry your years over from where you previously worked to Franklin.
No, there's two separates.
Or this one person that you feel is highly valued.
Mm-hmm.
We as a committee should recommend an exception.
Yes, I guess
That pretty much summarizes what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else while you're out of the normal session or normal business? I'll still be here in case there's some reason you guys have another question.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Any other citizens comment? Hearing none, we'll close the citizen comment period. Item 3, approval of the minutes from 7/15/24.
So moved.
I would like to I'd like to make a mention about the minutes. I mean, if we make a
Okay.
change, or is that another suspension?
Well, the motion's been made, and seconded, so we can open it up for comments.
All right. For everyone else, there was an item, a carryover from the prior month, and that was consideration of the consul attorney being on staff versus being hired. And on number 7 of the minutes that we just approved, it talks about that information will be provided at the next meeting to discuss this. And that was not included on the original agenda, and Dana had explained why to Dale and myself. So what I would like would it be inappropriate to put in here that this will be carried over to the October meeting? Because it says that this is a to-do for us today.
Well, we can bring it up in future agenda items, I'm thinking.
Well, because the minutes say that we will be talking about it at the next meeting,
Okay.
which is today, and it's not on the agenda.
Exactly.
And there's good reason. Dana gave a good reason why it's not on the agenda. But
Okay.
because it says it's going to be discussed, I just wanted to make sure it would get on. But
Shouldn't that be put in this meeting's minutes, that this is what we talked about, because we didn't talk about
I'm
it in this.
that's fine. I'm just saying that the minutes
So you want to make a motion?
aren't correct in that minute. If you want to do a workaround, that's fine.
Okay,
I wanted to make sure that was.
noted.
But I don't know that you're saying that you think that the minutes as written for July are wrong, because it does say in there that we
At the
provide
next
more
meeting,
information at the next meeting. In the
Which-
prior meeting before this, it
which is
said that
today.
the vote would be taken in September. So that was in prior minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know that these minutes are incorrect.
Yeah.
I think what you're wanting to do is make sure it ends up on the next agenda, which would be under future agenda items, not under these minutes.
And then put in this meeting's
Right.
minutes that it was brought up, but no
That-
discussion and will be.
Correct.
Yeah, no discussion was made from the
Yes.
minutes. That's fine.
Okay. We can also bring that up on item 11, future agenda items.
Oh,
Okay, is there any other comments?
Who did the second? I missed. Okay.
Hearing no other comments, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of 7:15:24. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, welcome to all, I'm just reading. Welcome Alderman Eichman to the Personnel Committee. Was a little bit of a surprise, but we're lucky. So, appreciate having you.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Is there anything you care to say or introduce yourself or anything?
I can briefly introduce myself. So, I grew up in Franklin High School graduate, total residency in Franklin now is well over 30 years. I'm the Alderwoman for District 2 and Common Council President. And I am in my last year of my first term.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and I can add too with being surprised with the change. So Alderman Pecorelli, when he was sworn in to take the place of the vacancy in District 1, his specialty is IT by trade.
Okay.
So he had requested to be on the Technology Commission, where he's a much better asset than I would be. So then that's where the switch off
I didn't
came
mean
about.
it in a bad way.
Oh, no, and I didn't take it in a bad way, but I just thought I would explain the reasoning why the mayor made the switch.
Oh,
So
welcome.
thank you so much.
Moving on to item 5, presentation by Scott Fuller, USI Insurance Services, on City of Franklin insurance plans and preliminary renewal outlook.
Ready.
It's all
Good
yours.
evening. Nice to see you again. We're here to give you an update of how things have progressed year to date, predominantly on the health plan.
Could you speak a little bit more into the microphone, please? So everybody can hear.
Is it working?
It's very directional.
Okay. We're just going to give an update on how the plan is performing, talk a little bit about what we're expecting from a renewal standpoint, show some information regarding benchmarking, how you stack up with other or compare to other municipalities, and then talk a little bit about the work that was done with your administration and several staff in regards to developing a strategic plan. So what you see on the screen here is the first column under 2023 is what the actual spend was in the prior year, so calendar year 2023. 2024 is year to date through July, and then we annualize that. That's not an ideal measurement, but we want to give you a perspective if things progress at the same rate, what the end of the year would look like. So first item is net claims, so that's medical and pharmacy claims, minus any reimbursements for stop loss or pharmacy rebates. The good news is currently we're running about 16% below where you were last year on an annualized basis. The next is total cost. That adds in fixed costs. Predominantly that's stop loss premiums, but it also includes all the various admin fees, UMR, et cetera. When we add that in, you're running about 11.5% below how you performed in 2023. That FIE column stands for fully insured equivalent, or is the budget number, the gross budget, not the net. So it's total funds needed to fund the health plan. In other words, if you were fully insured, what the premiums would be set at. You can see those were on an annualized basis about 20% above what they were in 23. That's a result of what transpired last year when we had a very difficult year due to significant increase in large claims. So last year you ran relative to budget 116.6% of budget. We corrected that last year. This year you're running at 85.5% of budget. year to date, and then obviously annualized, it would remain the same. The next column says gross RX claims to total net claims. As pharmacy costs have become a much greater component of overall health spend, we started tracking this, and you're up slightly from 21.1 in 2023 to 25.8 in 2024. That's right in line with what we see sort of universally across the 4 million plus members that we have management over. Your average head count or number of employees on the plan has increased slightly, 1.2%. And the line right above average employees, which is probably the most important where everything is normalized, net claims per employee per year, you're down about 17%. So that takes the net claims, factors in the fact that your head count has increased, and gives us a net claims per employee per year of, on an annualized basis, $13,928. Down below, you can see the biggest impact to these numbers has been the reduction in large claims. Last year, you had 21 of them over $45,000, and we use that number, that's 50% of the specific deductible where you would be reimbursed. So this year you're at 9. Again, that's through 7 months. But if we annualize that, it would be significantly less than where you were last year. And then the total amount of dollars paid for those claimants is $720 year to date compared to $1.931 million for the total prior year, 2023. So,
6:22 p.m.
whoa, my computer's talking to me, sorry. So with that said, do you want me to pause for questions or just keep going?
Do we have questions?
No.
Okay. So I apologize, this is an eye chart. It doesn't show very well on here, but our projections at this point, really the most important number on this chart is down here. We're projecting a 2% increase in this orange. I guess my mouse doesn't show up on here. But if you see the orange on the bottom right corner, the expectation at this point is that the premium equivalents would increase at 2%, which means the determination needs to be made how that's shared with the city and employees. So much, much better shape than where we were sitting here last year at this time. Questions on the 2%?
Am I correct in thinking that is not locked in yet because we don't have final stop loss premiums, correct?
Yeah.
So hopefully by next month's meeting, when we actually approve the insurance changes, we'll have those numbers.
Correct.
So that number with large claims, that really is, at this point, it's a little bit misleading because obviously there's 5 more months for large claims to be fully paid off. Would that be correct?
Yes, we have another 5 months to incur and for large claims to be paid. So they're going to, it's going to end up more than 9 most likely,
Okay.
but we don't believe it's going to hit the 21 that you had last year.
The government has jumped in with prescription drugs, that they're lowering them, but it seems like it's just a cost shift to the insured. Has that affected, it's affecting Medicare recipients. Is that going to affect us?
Not to date. What I think you're referencing is insulin, and that it was going to be limited and mandated to be paid at $35. That mandate does not apply to commercial, either insurance or self-funded employers. If it acts as the way it generally does, it actually could be a negative to those in the non-Medicare arena, because if the drug manufacturers are getting only $35 on the insulin for Medicare, they're going to probably want to make it up somewhere else, and that's where they would make it up. So it's too early to tell, but we haven't seen any issues or implications of that at this point.
What I'm saying is, obviously, I'm sure you know Medicare has a donut hole that's been eliminated, and the maximum out of pocket for insured is $2,000 from $8,000. Now, that's Medicare. So, you know, obviously this is not Medicare, but I was wondering if that would come back and haunt us, because the percentage of payment after $2,000 under Medicare goes against the insurance company pretty heavily. The drug manufacturer doesn't get hit too hard, and federal government doesn't get hit hard. So again, I was just wondering if that would affect us, but it doesn't seem like it will.
Right, and the fact that you're partially self-funded,
Pardon?
the fact that you're partially self-funded, not fully insured, there isn't an insurance company other than the stop-loss carrier that is really involved here. So I think everything, this is anecdotal and editorial, so I have to be careful here, but everything, when there is a cost shift, ultimately gets shifted to the commercial market, non-Medicare market, which is, you know, where you and all the other public entities and private sector entities are. But that hasn't manifested itself. The Medicare changes don't take effect till 1/1. There are some other components of that that make it much richer, much higher benefit than it was before. They count the employee and the Medicare payment, so it's not just what the Medicare paid. So it actually makes it even easier to hit the $2,000 than it did prior. So I would say there are a lot of things that are going to affect pharmacy moving forward, in particular the continual approval by the FDA of high-cost specialty medications.
Okay.
The changes to the Medicare prescription program, though, I believe, doesn't that start first in 2026?
1/1/25, January 1st of 25.
Oh, I thought it was another year.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So that will be beneficial, obviously, to anybody on Medicare. How it trickles down and the impact it has on non-Medicare plans, we will see over time.
When will the next update on cost and come?
In the October, at the October
our next meeting.
Yeah.
Has to be finalized next meeting.
Yeah.
And next year's renewals will probably be based more on October results?
So I don't expect what we're talking about here to change dramatically. If there was some major or multiple major large claims that negatively impact stop loss, the fixed cost could go up, but we have protections in place where it can only go up on a limited basis. So again, I have to be careful here, but there's nothing that I'm aware of that would change those significantly.
Have anybody reached out to insurance companies to see what they're offering, or what they might offer us?
What, the stop loss insurance company?
Pardon?
The stop loss company?
Right.
Yes, we have initial illustrative proposals, but they don't mean anything. They want additional data through August, which they now have. So we expect to have the final numbers in the next week to 2 weeks.
So in the next week or 2 weeks, we should have a better idea of what next year's renewals will be.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, they have to be finalized at the next meeting because we have to start open enrollment and all the things associated with that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, since this was informational, that's all we were looking for.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Looking
Appreciate your
forward to
time.
meet you next time. Item 6, promotion of, I hope I'm saying this right, from desktop and user support administrator to server and infrastructure engineer. Jeez, gotta take a break. And approval of the revised job description.
Yeah, as stated, there's
I assume
actually...
Are you Scott?
No, I am James Metelsky. I'm the Director of IT.
Okay,
Kelly Hirsch is not unable to be here tonight. They're also still trying to work on the final mayoral budget right now, and then she also has some personal issues that she's dealing with right now. So I will be speaking on both of our behalves tonight for it. There should be two recommendations. One would be the approval of the job description that I turned around and revised in 2023. It's a small revision from what was actually approved back in 2020. And then the actual approval of moving Ryan Booz from his existing desktop user and support job, which is at a grade level 3, over to server and network engineering role, which is a much higher role in its capacity, and that is actually at a grade level 8. That is also an exempt role, which means he will then turn around and be able to assist me working overtime hours, which I absolutely desperately need right now. So if he's working right now after hours or on weekends or coming early, that's a paid time and a half that we have to turn around and pay. Because this is now going to be put into an exempt position, he will also now be exempt from overtime. But that will definitely give me a lot of the after-hour support that I need and require at this point in time. Because right now I am doing all of the server engineering work myself. I've been putting in many long, grueling hours right now. We just had an incident this past weekend where the SQL servers put in a patch at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday and didn't come up. And they were down both at City Hall and they were down over at the police department. And I finally got a ticket in at 8:10 in the morning, so I know at the police department it was down for about 5 hours. And that's what I spent my Sunday morning doing. And that seems to be the role of what I've been doing lately, is dealing with one crisis after another, after hours and on weekends, on federal holidays right now. And I desperately need the additional staff to turn around and help me with this. And Ryan is more than qualified to be doing this. He came in the position in 2000 as a desktop support engineer for us. He came right out of the military, the United States Marine Corps, and he has just been an absolute godsend for us. He's working right now completely over at the police department, but he started actually over at City Hall. So he is a rare breed where he knows all of the systems, both at City Hall, and he knows all of the systems over at the police department as well. I can't go out to market right now and bring in any consultant that is going to know our internal systems to the level of degree that he knows right now. And that puts him into a unique situation. He has not also now been doing just desktop support work. He has been basically supporting all of the major IT systems over at the police department. Then I take care of it after hours and on weekends. And this promotion here is going to turn around and have him focus on the networking and on all of the server management in all offices, where I can then now start concentrating on moving projects forward, and then turning around and replacing some of the core infrastructure that needs to be done. We have 14 projects right now in the IT queue that are not in the planning stages, they are in the implementation stages. And that's 14 projects that have to get done by the end of this year, period. End of discussion. Everywhere from new PC replacements to turning around and moving over to VMware 8 and putting in new servers, to turning around and moving services over to the Microsoft Cloud and putting two-factor authentication. It doesn't stop. There's a lot of work that needs to be done right now. And hence, we're trying to turn around and reshuffle the deck as much as we possibly can, and then turn around and retool the IT department, putting in classes, putting in education, giving people that have shown their talent and also the good graces of their personality and their dedication and devotion to the city of Franklin. And that's where I look at bringing a person and hiring them and putting them into a promotional position and then investing into their education is going to give us a much larger long-term gain than we would have turning around and working with consultants. So that is my viewpoint on the matter right now. Out of the job description, there's two sections. First is page 1, where I have architecture and design on it. This was put in place because other municipal IT departments that actually have a true engineer, not an administrator, but an engineer position, put this in here. And we actually have some new technologies that that we put in place. We're looking at IPv4 of moving that in place, but we also changed completely all of our new routing. And with the new firewalls that we just put in place, we now have dual routing over 2 internet service providers. Our primary is WISPNet, and now we have a backup failover for SD-WAN going over to Spectrum in case if WISPNet ever goes down. So that's new technology that's important that needs to be added. We're redesigning our wireless networks, and we're putting in multi-factor authentication, 2FA, in it. And we also turned around and created new access rules on all of the core switches. That's a requirement of CJIS, which is part of our FBI audit in the Department of Justice. So that needed to be added to the job description that was missing there before. On the second page, we broke out a lot on VMware before we just dealt with virtualization. Here I actually specified what we're looking for VMware talent because we are very much centrally focusing a lot of our support and our technology based on VMware's technologies and also on the HP switches, which are also being managed right now through Aruba Central. Soon, for 2026, we're going to be doing major changes to our storage area networks. It was originally devised that HP would be doing all of our storage area network support for us. They have now gotten out of that business. They don't do it anymore. Even if you go with an HP GreenLake contract, they don't do SAN storage and support work. And I had to really pull a whole bunch of teeth to turn around and get them to update our current SANs, which will start on this Friday, because this is now something that they didn't have to do, and I had to give them into a special support contract. So we're looking at replacing our HP SANs in 2026, and that role is going to fall into the IT department. Therefore, it also should be appropriately put on the job description. The only other major change that we have is down in perimeter security, where I included the SCIM and also with Rapid7 MDR. That's brand new. That was not in place in 2020. And we're also turning around and dealing with change management. Firewalls right now have been outsourced to TPX, a third-party vendor, but we are still accountable for managing them, acting as their liaison, but even more importantly, putting in structured change management in place. And that structured change management is defined within the perimeter security systems for it. So those are the major changes that we actually have to the job description. A lot of it is additions because we actually had changes to our environment between 2020 when it was originally written and then 2023. For the job position itself, I can't say enough good things about Ryan. He is my absolute right-hand man. He is part of a large to-do of my success within this organization, and he has the intellectual intelligence to grow and learn beyond his current capacity, as he has been doing basically since we hired him on in 2020. And I'd like to turn around and keep him as a longtime employee. And I realize if we keep him right now only in the existing job position that he is in, there's a very strong chance that he's going to be recruited somewhere else and will leave. He has the certification, he has the experience, and more above, he has military credentials and has worked into a police department. So we'd like to keep him here as much as we possibly can, and we think that a promotion and a recognition for his efforts is well due.
I guess, let me start. I am zero on computers. So, but my question is, what I'm hearing is a little bit muddled.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I'd like to know is outside of keeping this Ryan, is there any other advantages in promoting him? Is you looking for him to be some kind of supervisor? Are you looking to add on to your department? Where does that?
Yeah,
you're telling me that
we're not adding FTE at this point. So we are basically taking the duties that I am currently doing in the data center and doing all the technical work, and I'm shifting my workload right now of one of my multiple hats that I always have to wear. Is I'm taking my main roles of support technician off my head and I'm giving it to Ryan, and he's going to turn around and run forward with those duties. I'm going to be playing less and less and less a role in the actual data center.
Alden Barber?
Having been on the council, I'm aware of Jim's devotion to the city and the number of hours he's been putting in. The whole world of technology has evolved to the point where it is sophisticated beyond my scope and Michelle and anybody else up here. But the whole idea is that Jim needs some help at this point. He can't do it all. And here's what we're trying to promote: somebody from within that has the skill set to step in and help Jim and diffuse the workload, so he's not putting in how many hours a week? 50, 60, 80?
I have been working 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, consistently since the beginning of June.
So we are in dire need of some assistance in that department, or else we're going to lose that department completely and be at zero. So I'd like to make the motion, as stated in the action sheet, to move that forward.
I'll second.
I have a,
Okay, motion made and seconded. Is there any further?
We're still having a discussion, I mean.
Well, we can make a motion, and it's still open for discussion.
We can open it, now it's open for discussion.
Okay, I just have one, it's a simple clarification, but in my mind, we're taking a level 3 and making them a level 8. We are not adding a level 8.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Still the same number of FTEs.
Okay, now you made
I made
your
the
motion, there
motion.
actually is going to be two motions or
I'm
two
making the
things.
first one to approve the promotion of Ryan Boss to the desktop user. support
Okay, now it's
administrator.
separate from the job description.
At this point,
Okay.
yes.
Is there any further questions, comments?
No, my second holds on that first
Right,
motion, too.
okay. Hearing no further comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next one is the job description. Is there any discussion on that?
Seeing is the motion in the packet?
She combined both of them. She didn't make them as separate motions, but they should be two separate motions, because first you have to approve the job description in order to turn around and tie the promotion to it.
Now, there's two job descriptions.
It's the 2023.
The 2021 is the one that was approved years ago. The 2023 is what we're requesting it be, the approved changes.
The motion to approve?
That would be this one? Yes.
Alderman, did you make a motion to approve the new job description?
I second it.
Okay, now this is to recommend to the Common Council approval.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, do I have to hit one in case you leave?
Item 7, vacation accruals for lateral transfers in the fire
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chief?
Good evening. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jim Mayer, the fire chief for City of Franklin. Next to me is Assistant Chief Shannon Antoine. I'm going to try to give you a little bit more information to add on what Lieutenant Pulaski provided during the public comment period. The first thing that I want to say is that I have a sign in my office that says internal customer service has a direct relationship to external customer service. So fire department, that's our only product, is we provide fast, quality service to take care of Mrs. Smith when she's having the worst day of her life. And I am all in favor of doing as much as I can to take care of our personnel so that they enjoy working for City of Franklin Fire Department, so that they portray that onto the public that we serve. So I'm all about taking care of our people. But sometimes I have to be the one that makes the final decision, which I know a lot of you do in your professions as well. So like Lieutenant Pulaski mentioned, we have been extremely successful, and that's actually, I cannot take credit for that. That's from my predecessors. We have been extremely successful in our lateral transfer program of bringing firefighters from other departments that have experience and training over to work for us. We've been one of the front runners and been very successful in that. The information or the issue before you deals strictly with vacation, like how we translate vacation time for someone that comes in with a fair amount of experience. The other parts of it that the applicants look at is they look at wages. For instance, the person that came in with 10 plus years of experience, they're coming in at top pay firefighter. They're not going through that step process where it takes them 4 or 5 years to get to top pay. They're getting paid top pay from day one. Other things that applicants look at are health insurance, benefits, those kind of things. It all depends on the candidate. So what we're focusing on now is just the vacation transfer program. So the document that you had that says current city policy draft handbook, that's something that was created by our department in 2022 by Chief Remington and the city administrator at that time. And what it did is it recognized that the way we were doing it for a while, which is towards the bottom of the sheet, where it outlines that those firefighters coming in from another department that is outside of Milwaukee County with similar experience needed to receive minimal training and step in to perform the duties of Franklin firefighter paramedic. That's how we had been doing it for a long time, where they would, for vacation purposes, would receive 1.5 year of service credit for up to 10 years of previous service. So a firefighter paramedic hired on as a lateral transfer from an agency outside Milwaukee County with 10 years of previous experience would receive 5 years of service to be applicable to vacation purposes. So to put it into perspective, the 5-year credit nets the firefighter 2 weeks of vacation or 6 working days of vacation for us with the 24-hour shifts. And what Chief Remington and the previous administration looked at is they said, how can we attract other firefighters, potentially from Milwaukee County, that have the same paramedic training? They're already full practice paramedics in the Milwaukee County system, have a significant amount of experience. How could we attract more applicants to come over? And that's where they came up with the language at the top of the sheet for those coming in from another Milwaukee County agency with the exact experience. And for that, it allows 1 year of service for each previous year of service up to 5 years. So someone that's coming in with 5 years experience, they get a full 5 years of experience coming in. And 1.5 year of service for up to 10 additional years of previous service. And this is kind of where the rub comes in with the interpretation, is when this was drafted and what we have previously, our past practice with several other members who came from Milwaukee County departments, is we capped the number of years they could apply toward credit at 10. And that comes from most of the other departments in the city. For someone who's coming in from the outside, the maximum amount of vacation that they can be credited for is 5, if I'm not correcting. So that's kind of where the basis of that. So we have hired, since this 2022 document came out, we have hired 8 lateral transfers under this document, with the majority of them coming from Milwaukee County departments. So the request that's before you, when it came to my office, it's someone that came in with a considerable amount of experience, like Lieutenant Pulaski had mentioned. Previously worked with Greendale, left Greendale and went to two other departments that were outside the county, and then was considered in our next hiring process to come in. So when it came across my office, or my desk, had a couple things to consider. One is all the people that previously were hired under the lateral transfer, what is their reaction going to be? We being it's kind of an unusual circumstance with us being a union shop, so to speak. Most of this is already laid out, depending upon how many years of service you have, how much vacation you get, and where you pick in that lineup. So what I tried to look at when it came across my desk is unusual circumstance is how do I give consideration to maintaining morale and fairness and consistency with all those people that came before this individual. That a couple of them had a little bit more than 10 years of experience that would fall under this this policy. The other thing was the individual, although he had 18 years in the Milwaukee County system, he left the county and technically was not coming from a Milwaukee County agency, so to speak, where they couldn't walk directly onto the job. So the decision that I had to make, I did allow him consideration that to put him under the policy as if he was coming from a Milwaukee County department, which allowed him to go from 5 years of credited service to 7.5. And again, to kind of put that into terms that you would recognize, it would bring him from 2 weeks of vacation to 3 weeks of vacation. So that, I believe, was giving him extra consideration while still keeping it in line that it was not going to cause a rift with my current employees to say, hey, so-and-so, did you hear he got this? And, he didn't come from a Milwaukee County department. So I felt that was kind of being a middle, shooting toward the middle, because the policy, once you get up to above 10 years additional service, it's rather ambiguous. The whole plan was to, like I said, limit the amount of time that could be credited at plopping 10 years on the table to be transferred. So that was kind of where my decision was based on, to try to avoid that negative connotation and any potential drop in morale with the current 8 individuals who did have to follow the policy that's in front of you. So admittedly, I do, I kind of laughed, or I talked to Lieutenant Pulaski this morning. This is a friendly disagreement between us. I'm not stomping around my office with smoke coming out of my ears. We do need to make this a little bit more clear and adopt it officially.
Okay. Let me start. Okay. I appreciate the importance of and how it can benefit the department and the city to have lateral transfers. That's fantastic. My concern is obviously retirement health benefit. If we have somebody who's been with the department, let's say 30 years, and retires, the health insurance between the time he retires and time he's eligible for Social Security probably amounts, I figured something like $250,000. Now, if they've been with us for 30 years, that's roughly $8,000 a year. Okay. But if somebody was working at another fire department 15 years and they come with us for 15, now we're absorbing that let's use that figure, $250,000 over 15 years.
Dale,
Now,
that doesn't play into this at all, though.
What's
They're
that?
not getting credit for that, though. They're only getting credit for vacation. That's it. This isn't affecting retiree insurance.
But again, if they're working at the city for 15 years, they get our city's health insurance as a retiree. And I realize that, this is just, my point is if we attract a lot of transfers from other departments, it may be good in the short run, but in the long run with unfounded liabilities, it could get awful expensive. Like I said, you have somebody with 30 years, well, $8,000 a year. If you have somebody that works for Franklin for 15, that's probably about, $15,000 a year that we're paying when they retire for health insurance. That gets kind of hard. So, as though it's a great tool, there is a downside to it.
I see your points. Yep, and that, like Dana mentioned, that isn't anything that we're talking about changing right now.
No, I
Yep.
understand you're not
Yep.
talking about changing.
But point taken.
But it is a extra thought to think about when you do hire lateral transfers. It's not all gold. It is great to have a firefighter, paramedic that's, hitting the ground running. That's fantastic, but there's a big cost for it. And in 10, 15 years, it could really hurt. Because again, this is unfounded liability. I'm not going to get into gas fees and all that stuff. I just want you, bring that point up. So, having said that, is there any questions, comments?
No, I just have a question, Dale. So if I follow your thought process, then we should not have any additional credit for prior years?
No, that's not the point. The point is that there's two separate things. We're talking about lateral transfers
Yes.
and promoting lateral transfers. Is that a good thing?
Right, and that's what the gentleman was discussing.
Pardon?
And that's,
That's a little bit in addition to what you're looking at. All I'm saying is, do you really, and I'm not saying it's bad, is it really a good thing to promote lateral transfers? That's what I'm saying.
so more in a hypothetical?
Pardon?
More in a hypothetical, is that what you're saying?
More than a hypothetical.
This is a hypothetical that, if we were to continue with this practice, then we could pay a price in the long run. Yeah.
No, it's more than hypothetical. It is a fact
Okay.
that obviously the people we have are going to retire someday at retirement age.
Yeah, I would say currently they do have to be employees for 15 years before they would receive that health care benefit.
Right. So now I don't know if that's 15. It's not 15 years with Franklin.
Yeah, oh, yes, it is. Yep. So even if someone comes, so it's strictly City of Franklin time. So it doesn't really matter how long they worked for another fire department. When they start for us for health care benefits, they have to be here for 15 years.
How many years is it for a firefighter retired?
They can retire at 53 or 54 years,
What's
depending
that?
on how much. They can retire at 53 or 54 years old, depending on how many years of service they have.
Right. So they could retire at 53, 54 with 15
Yep.
years of service at Franklin. Now, I'm saying it's cheaper it's good to get the good people, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying, would it be better to hire a 22, 23-year-old that's going to be with the city for 30 years, rather than hire a 40-year-old that's going to be with the city for 15 years? We're going to pay out the same benefits for them.
We're not going to get into age
That's a separate thing
discrimination.
from
That's a different discussion.
this, but what I'm saying is it good to make these lateral transfers that attractive?
Absolutely.
We would be in really difficult circumstances to staff our department if we didn't do lateral transfers, because there's so few kids coming out of school that want to serve in the fire and paramedic industry.
So it's not just the police.
It is not just the police. We've had we're now starting to see a little bit of a turnaround now, but for quite a while it was very difficult to find applicants right out of tech school or out of high school.
I guess my question, or what I'd like to hear, is that you would rather hire somebody 21, 22, just out of MATC, wherever firefighters are going.
I've got to turn to my counsel for that one.
We can't say that. That is age discrimination, and no, we're not going to look at the age of the applicant.
Did you look at what the prior gentleman offered us? Career builder, average length of time spent in a role by a generation? It's in our packet. And what this does is actually give credence to the fact that people don't stay in the same job like our generations used to. They move.
I think overall that we are hiring the best qualified candidate. Whether they're a lateral transfer or they're not, we are looking to hire the best qualified candidate, regardless of age and education.
What percentage of lateral versus fresh out of school are you hiring, would you say?
This last hiring class, we hired 2 guys right out of school, and 1 was a lateral transfer. Out of our last class of 3.
So about 65%, would you say that's about what you're hiring?
For right now, but the last hiring class before that was all lateral transfers.
Was all what?
All lateral transfers. So it all goes in waves. But our goal is to hire the best qualified candidate.
I understand that, but all I'm trying to say is that all that glitters is not gold. You know, there is a cost for lateral transfers.
Absolutely.
And, you know, a lot of things don't bite you today, but it might come back in 15 years. Okay, but again, that's not having to do with what's on the board. Alderman Barber?
I guess I'm not familiar with the draft that was out there, and supposedly that was never implemented at this point. And I'm not familiar with the new proposal at this point to be able to really say which way I'd like to go. I'd like to know if this has been, one of the things that comes up typically this way would be to have our financial director at least take a look at this to see if there's an impact there that is going to affect her budgeting process. And that's what she'll come back and say, well, I haven't seen this. And you've been waiting for that to happen.
Sure, yep.
So I'm just wondering if there might not be at least a consideration of running it past her to get at least what that might fiscally be, because there's no fiscal verbiage here in either of this. So I'm kind of at least confused with that. I'm not against it in any way, but I just want to know if there's any implication that we're missing and what that might be if there is. If not, I'm all for it to go ahead with it. But I'm just saying that possibly we might want to look at that before we decide that.
Just a comment in regard to that, it does make sense, but we already have the authority to give the vacation. Right now, if you see in your packet, the union contract just says that we can give vacation, whatever the chief recommends, with approval of the mayor.
Which one is that one? Is that the draft form or?
No, it's the next page after that, the one that was, I don't think it was highlighted. I think there was a star in your packet, the contract language, where it just says the chief has the authority to offer the extra vacation with approval by the mayor. The reason for trying to get the policy approved is just so that it's standardized, so that we treat everybody the same. And we did give you the revised draft copy today that the chief, Director Hirsch, and myself met today and came to terms with trying to do this standardized, where the max anybody could get is 7.5 years of service credit. And the reason for that is the most we've given anybody so far, and we want to keep consistent with what we've been giving out. Throughout the city, any other employee outside of the fire department can only get the 5 years of service credit. So we didn't want to go too far beyond that.
So actually, the discussion is just about the lateral transfer. Or was somebody from one?
There's been no motion made yet.
Right, but you know, they are not really talking about any finances or any health things, more than just the vacation.
Right, I think
Any other benefits you say?
Right.
to probably summarize in a nutshell, we're talking strictly probably about, we're talking about one individual that was hired in June. The request is to bring him from the 7.5 years of credit that was allotted to 11.5, which is higher. Like Dana said, it's higher than the previous 8 lateral transfers. Granted, as a disclaimer too, we are very lucky to have this individual with a lot of experience. I'm very happy to have him on board. It was a very difficult decision for me to make, but like I said, with the a little bit of gray area with him coming from Western Lakes versus a Milwaukee County department versus looking what other similar members had gotten, I had made the decision to keep him at the 7.5, which was the highest that was allotted for other Milwaukee County members that came over with 11 years of service.
And that is what he was told in his job offer letters, that he would get the 7.5 years credit. And that's what he took the job with the understanding of.
Why only Milwaukee County? Is Milwaukee County so much more qualified than other cities?
We operate under the same emergency medical services system, so it's the same doctor that is our medical director. So basically, as a paramedic from, let's say, Cudahy, a paramedic from Cudahy has the same operating privileges as Franklin, where they literally could walk into our fire station and be put to work as a full practice paramedic on, literally on the first day that they walk in. So that's why the consideration was specific to Milwaukee County, because we're all under the same emergency medical system. If that
Is it
makes
that
sense.
hard to get qualified for that system?
I'm going to turn it over to my EMS assistant chief who handles that.
So if you're coming from the outside of Milwaukee County, there's a system called onboarding. So, which is going through all the protocols, a certain amount of calls. It's a meeting with the medical director, being tested out. It's meeting and having a one-on-one conversation of introducing yourself. So that onboarding process is a minimum of 3 months. Okay. It generally has taken our employees approximately 5 months on average to be able to finish this onboarding process. When you're not onboarded as a full practice paramedic, like if I'm a full practice and Chief is not a full practice, that means that we have to work together, right? But if he's not full practice and I'm not full practice, we can't work together. Like there always has to be one person that's full practice. Where now if they're coming in right away full practice, there is no interchange of what he can do and what I can do. We're one of the same. So all 14 fire departments in Milwaukee County work under the same umbrella. We have the same protocols, the same standards, the same qualifications. And if I walk into Oak Creek or Greenfield or Greendale today, I can do exactly what they're doing. Or if they're outside of Milwaukee County, if they come from Waukesha or what have you, they have a completely different medical system. They have completely different protocols, a completely different doctor. They have completely things of I can do this and you can do that. And sometimes completely different drugs and medications that they can give a person. So that's kind of the difference.
So I'm assuming, one, that you don't want to include the others outside of Milwaukee County? Or could it be that, like that person that was brought up, assuming he was familiar or knew how to do Milwaukee County, he moved out to a different city, wanted to come back. So he was qualified, technically, wasn't he? I'm assuming.
He had to go through it was a very short process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could there be a provision in there for something like that, or do you feel that would be advantageous?
I think what is a little confusing is that he wants the 11 and a half years, right? And Chief already gave him the 7.5 because technically, you're right, he did not come from a Milwaukee County department, right? He came from a Waukesha department, which you're correct. But we've already compromised, and what it says in the language is that Chief can honor, with the mayor's permission, up to these standards. And he already gave him the 7.5 years of credit as a Milwaukee County lateral transfer, right? But now he wants 11 and a half.
Okay.
But we already gave him the max of 7.5 when in reality, he probably should have got 5, right? So we already did that, like, gracious accommodation of giving him that 7.5.
Alderman.
Thank you. Chief, I just wanted for you to repeat again, if I understood you correctly earlier, this particular individual that comes with all this experience from Milwaukee County applied for Franklin. For whatever reason, there was another applicant that at the time, former Chief Remington chose that other applicant. So this individual that we're speaking of tonight would have come from Milwaukee County, Greendale specifically, right to Franklin had he been hired. He was not hired at that time from Franklin. So for employment, he had no other choice but to find another job in a different community when he wanted to be with Franklin. My personal thought is I'd like to retain his employment within the city of Franklin with all the experience that he brings with us in his paramedic training, and to find somebody so qualified, I would be comfortable personally moving forward with this evening. But with that, I'll yield.
Well, what are you looking for the Personnel Committee to do? Or what are we, I mean, we discussed it, beat it up pretty good,
Sure, yep.
but do you want to change a recommendation for Personnel Committee to change, recommendation for a Personnel Committee to reaffirm what's being done? I'm kind of
We
confused.
didn't have a policy before. It was only in draft mode. So we're requesting that you approve the policy that I handed out at your seats, which limits it to the 5 years vacation credit for people outside of Milwaukee County and the maximum 7.5 years for the Milwaukee County paramedics.
Thank you. I guess I'm personally confused for clarification reasons. I don't see a motion in the packet for anything to be made.
So the motion is to recommend policy from chief.
Okay, it's just in a different.
That's the motion.
Yeah.
Are you,
You can make the motion to recommend policy from chief mayor.
okay, motion's made.
Direct her, Hirsch and the manager.
I want, before I second it, I need some questions answered.
You second it?
No.
Frank did.
I second
He has some
Okay,
questions.
okay, motion made and second to approve this. Any further comment?
Yes. I'm still confused. Like I said, this is the first time, okay, I'm looking at this. How do we get from 5 to 7.5 to 11.5? I'm not understanding where we're jumping around and what does that mean in terms of a policy that's a fixed policy? And did we get the mayor's approval when you did the 7.5?
So the original, the past practice and the original draft that we had used for 8 lateral transfer places gave the 5 years, up to 5 years, 5 full years, and a half year for up to 10 years of service. So it allows a person, the practice that we had been operating under is a lateral transfer member could put up to 10 years previous service on the table and receive up to 7.5. So that's been our previous practice.
Well, at that point, they could have done up to 10 years, because they could have done 5 years service credit for the first 5 years of experience, and then the next.
That's the part that is ambiguous that we had not, that it was different than our past practice.
I guess I'd like more clarity and more definition before I'd say go for it.
It admittedly is very confusing. Yep. And your question about the mayor, I did have a discussion at the Police and Fire Commission with the mayor, and he had given me permission to follow this policy that we had been using previously with the, again, with the 8 previous people since 2022.
Because, I mean, this is setting precedent for all future hires. And I think it deserves the clarity that you could give it with one more take or shot at this.
And that was the draft that Dana had put together to tighten up the language.
But I don't see the 11.5 there either.
No, and that's the request that is different than my recommendation.
Okay.
The city's intent was never to have the 11.5. It was to never go beyond 10 years max. And I think some of the union personnel are reading it a little different than what we're reading it, but nobody has ever gone beyond 7.5 years.
Can I talk about the gray area, please?
Is it appropriate to ask for a motion to suspend the rules to have union president speak?
Oh, excuse me. After Alderman.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just was asking if it was appropriate to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow the union president to speak.
Second.
Well, it's generally been
already
past
allowed.
practice that somebody could comment if they had direct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. So, again, thank you for letting me speak on the gray portion, because obviously I did bring this up and I started the ball rolling again with this. So, as Dana stated, yeah, the individual got that letter and accepted the job, but at the same time, he got the letter, or the offer letter with the 7.5 years on there. And actually, before I think the day of or the week of, I went and talked to Chief immediately. I sent out the email beginning of June to question that 7.5 year statement. The 11.5 years is coming in. So the way I'm reading this, for vacation purposes, 1 year of service for each year, previous service, comma, up to 5. Oh, sorry.
That's the old.
Nope, the other one that's in the packet.
The one that never passed, it's nowhere.
Yes.
Okay.
That one. That's what I was going off of because that's what I was told last from Steno and Remington. So, anyways, 1 year of service for each year, previous service, comma, up to 5 years, comma, and 1/2 of year of service for up to 10 additional years of previous service. The way I'm reading that is if someone comes in with 30 years, they're going to get 15 max. They come in 20 years, they get 15 max. That's the way I'm reading that statement. So with him having the 18 in Milwaukee, again, I said that a year and a half, that because he wasn't fortunate enough to get pulled on that list when he applied a year and a half ago, correct? He came in a year later. So 23 he applied, didn't get it. He was in Milwaukee County directly. Didn't get it. 24, he got hired. Took a couple months, got brought in, and finally in June of this year. So 3 months now. So this is what was discussed for 2 years. My assumption of the union president, the previous chief, this is what the assumption was. That's why I'm going off this language. That's where the 11.5 comes in. Because if you take the 18 years, I'm scrapping the year and a half that he went to Western Lakes or wherever he is. Like, I'm not even worried about that. But if you take the 18 years when he originally came in, 18 years, he gets 5 no matter what. Take that third, now it drops down to 13, cut that in half is 6.5. That's where I'm coming up with the 11.5 years. I feel is a better fit for him. The individual had 5 weeks of vacation, his other 2 jobs, now he's coming down to 2. Oh, sorry, 3. So now he's come down to 3. And now he has to work another 12 years before or 11 years before he gets his 5 weeks of vacation. All right, so I'm trying to give him some type of benefit for the years of experience he had previously. That's where the confusion is, because he was hired months ago under this assumption. The other one that you have, that came out 3 minutes ago, well, an hour and 3 minutes ago. I never seen that up until just before the meeting. So I'm asking for leniency for the individual that came in prior to tonight's new page that was handed out. That's where I'm getting at, and that's where the gray area is. As soon as he got accepted it, he told me. I went right to the chief and Ms. Hirsch to talk to both of them, figure out what this language meant then, and why he was only getting 7.5. That's where. After this individual, that's what you guys want to go down the road. Fine, but he was brought in something done. He was brought in underneath this document, in my opinion, and that's why I'm trying to give this individual that, because that's what I was going off of, with how it's written with the commas and an comma and an up to 10 additional years of previous service. That's how I'm reading that. That's how I'm interpreting it. That's how the union interpreted it as well. So that's the gray portion.
And I see the differences, but I think what how the city read it is the half year of service for an additional 10 years of previous service is the 10 years is the years of experience, but you only get a half year credit. So you're getting 5 additional years of credit in addition to the 5 original years credit. So it would have been a max of 10 instead of 15.
In likelihood, if we would have said 10 years, if we should have went to 15 years, we should have did a different number than 10. Because if 10 was our max, we shouldn't have used 10 as an example then.
Right, yeah.
Think about it.
And from my side of it, trying to make the decision, when I looked at, we had a couple other members from Milwaukee County departments that came in with like 11 years of experience, which if you did the calculation, it would give them the first 5, plus it would give them 3 for 8, but yet they're listed both at 7.5. They maxed out at the 7.5. And that's what led me to interpret it that we were limiting it to the number of years that you could apply for conversion was a maximum of 10. And again, my concern is not with awarding additional vacation days. It's keeping the relationship and the morale of the crew, that crews aren't going to be looking around and saying, well, hey, Mike got this, and Bob got this, and you got this. I'm trying to be consistent, because there are a lot of intricacies with the lateral transfer. One interesting one is that we've had people who came in that, like I mentioned, they're at top pay from day one, the person training them is still in their second pay step. The person that's training the new hire is making less on their wages than the lateral that came in. So there's a lot of dynamics to this that, again, my decision was based on keeping the peace and keeping our people happy, to be consistent and not taking a single case and making a special exception for unusual. Somebody coming in with 18 years is a very unusual transfer.
So your recommendation would be the revised that we just received tonight as a policy?
I would, yep.
Okay, there's two things. So what we're talking about is not the situation with the existing firefighter. We're talking about future. Is that correct?
No, he's saying they're connected, sir. So I'm just talking about this one individual up until the previous what I thought. He's going off of, which would mirror it. It mirror it. The revised copy is basically the same as this, from what I could tell in the minute and a half that I was able to read it. So it's very, very similar. He's going off, and from that point on forward going, yes. I'm saying the gray area was the previous policy.
So you're talking about two separate things.
Two separate
You're
things. One for that
talking about
individual.
the one existing firefighter. You're talking about clarifying the future language. Okay.
Well, the city never made a promise to go to 11 and a half. It was just 7.5 is what was offered.
Right, yep.
So it's really not two things. It's just an exception to what this is and what was offered. And I guess I'd be more comfortable with going with this as being something that was in the contract that he signed and accepted as part of his employment. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay.
The only problem with that, sir, is then he wouldn't technically be here. Correct? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's taken months. This email started June 6th, actually before that, with verbal conference.
I'm thinking of the future and the consistency of policy, and this is what we have, this is what was done, this is what we have moving forward.
The future forward, I'm fine with the future forward. I'm just going off of what was originally
consistent
discussed.
with what we've done in the past.
Agreed on his application.
Again, we have two different things. Now, Alderman, your motion was to change the change and clarify the existing wording to this. Am I correct?
Yes, the motion is to, accept this policy that when somebody comes from a different department to the Franklin department, to give them the benefit of this lateral transfer.
Okay, so you want to change it to this?
Yes.
Okay. And
I don't think it
Well,
really
let me
conflicts
clarify,
with
Dale.
the-
We're not changing because we didn't have one. The other one was never approved. So I think what he's saying is motion to recommend the policy that I handed out tonight for approval by Common Council.
There's a conflict with the interpretation of whether we go with 7.5 or something that was never, and I was never made aware of it ahead of time. So the 7.5, I think, is what we want, is the consistent, which is what you're recommending. I don't think we're going to the 11.5 as an exception. I don't think you want to do that, but that's part of it. The motion would be simply this for me.
okay. And that's your motion, and you seconded it.
Yes.
Is everybody understanding which one we're talking about? We're not talking about the existing firefighter right now.
What's the status going to be for this firefighter then?
Just repeat your question again.
If we're not going to include this firefighter that was hired,
Yes, it does, it's 7.5.
so we're just gonna, he was promised 11 and a half years.
He was given 7.5 in his
7.5.
job offer.
Nothing was promised. I was going off of old documentation. It was in his job offer of
Then
7.5.
that's
I was told we were going to
perfect,
discuss it
yes.
further.
Yes.
So
That's perfect, yeah. If that works, that's perfect, yeah. Then no modification, just we stick to this policy.
I don't know how you can go back, but
Okay. We're not gonna go back, right?
No, he was.
Yeah, you are, because this person already has been hired with whatever there is. We're making a change effective, or we're asking a common council to make a change effective today or tomorrow.
But it's at the same number that he's at, so there is no change.
It's a 7.5.
7.5.
There is no change to him.
It's the same one that you're,
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same individual. Yes.
no, the same wording?
No.
No, they tightened the word up. They got rid of the commas and stuff, so it's tightened
Does it
up.
fit
It says max is 7.5. So I was going off something that was never adopted. My understanding is it was because it was moving forward with Stino at the time. She left, etc. I didn't realize this got dropped off and no one saw it. Never went to personnel. I didn't know that part. Again, that was negligence on my part of it, assuming this was correct. So, yeah. So I mean, he was offered the 7.5. That's what he was told. But I was also told as soon as I brought it up that we would discuss it more later, and tonight's the discussion 3 months later. So,
Okay. All right, your
Thank you.
motion stands?
My motion stands, yes.
Frank,
my
your
motion
second stands?
Yes.
Any further?
I have one question.
Okay.
I have the understanding that the chief recommends this policy
The policy that was drafted,
that we're voting on.
it would more clearly illustrate the past practice and eliminate the ambiguity that kind of caused this situation.
So you're not against the
Correct,
policy?
correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Cliff.
Chief, is there any more ambiguity that you'd like to put on for the future?
Next month, we're going to have a bunch of job descriptions for you. Be careful what you wish for
And potential restructuring.
and put your potential
Okay,
restructurings.
item 8, appointment of an additional member to the Civil Service Subcommittee for consideration of the elimination of the Civil Service Subcommittee. Let me explain. In the past, we've had 3 people who are members of the Personnel Committee serve on a Civil Service Subcommittee. What we did was reviewed applicants and certified them for hiring. These certified lists would stay in effect for a year. In the past, with Alderman Barber getting his knee replaced, we were down to 2, which was Tom Trainer and myself. Obviously, sadly, Tom passed away. Now we're still at 2. So the question is, number 1, I guess, is could the Civil Service Subcommittee be eliminated? If so, how would it be replaced? Or are we just going to look to get one of us in the Civil Service Subcommittee? So, Dan, you want to?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that I think we brought this to the committee once before, a year or 2 ago, to possibly eliminate civil service. The big function that they've been doing is approving certifying applicant lists, which doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to us because you don't look at the applications anyway. You're basically just accepting my recommendation as to whether somebody is qualified or not. So somewhat, what is the point of doing that? I know the mayor and Director Hirsch are looking at trying to weed out some of the committees because there are so many committees that staff has to do agendas and minutes for, and does it make sense to spend our time on it? I know in my community down in Kenosha, they don't certify applications. I checked with Greenfield and Oak Creek, which are obviously our biggest comparables this past week, and neither of them have civil service committees that certify applications. They leave that up to HR. I think some of the other things that civil service does, like do exceptions, such as like when we had the exception to the nepotism policy. Those kind of things could probably still come to personnel. But do we need special civil service meetings just to certify applications that aren't even looked at? I do know that the mayor wanted to talk to you about this, and I thought he was coming to the meeting tonight to do so. So I don't know if you want to make a decision on it tonight, or if you want to think about it until the next meeting and table the decision until next month. Or if you want to come up with any other questions to provide to Kelly or myself in the meantime.
Isn't the Civil Service Subcommittee and part of an ordinance?
It probably is, and other things like the Civil Service Manual would obviously have to be adjusted.
Because the value that I see, and I guess Dale and I have been on it for a long period of time, it's like a monitoring group just to make sure that things are being handled. It's like a review, a monitoring review.
But what are
That's
you
what it does.
reviewing if you're not looking at the applications?
Well,
I mean, obviously,
we
I'm
have
going.
the ability to ask you about them at that time and question if there is something. It's like a monitoring. It's like a safeguard to some extent to make sure that the city is not. If we have questions about it, other people might, and that might come back and bite the city in some ways.
But I think in the almost 19 years I've been here, I don't think anybody's asked questions on the applications. I think after the fact, if somebody questions why did so-and-so get hired, then the personnel committee can obviously ask me those questions, and if I'm doing something that I shouldn't be, then I should be dealt with.
How would the personnel committee know because they're not reviewing an individual?
Well, if you had a citizen that said that they applied and they think they were better qualified than somebody else, or if somebody got hired that they didn't think was qualified, somebody might bring that forward. But
Because I know we have asked you questions about people in the past when there's some question about it, and you've answered them. But that I thought was what the primary role that we had was to raise a question if there was one.
I mean, years ago, you were setting limits on entrance exams and what the limit was on what score they had to get. We don't do most of those exams anymore. Except for the dispatcher exam, I can't think of any others that we still use.
Well,
Qualifications for
This
the job?
was-
We've asked you many times about if they have the qualifications for the job. We rely on you to give us the right answer, the correct answer. But we've asked those kind of questions. Are they qualified?
Right.
Do they meet the qualifications? So,
the civil service personnel used to go through all of the resumes and everything else. That got eliminated. I'm not sure why. I guess, number one, I'd like to see the question and the reply to the city attorney as to whether a civil service subcommittee is required by law, or if there's any requirement, that applicants for employment have to be reviewed.
Actually, civil service was taken out of the ordinance years ago, I think when they created the personnel committee, and it just says in the personnel committee's bylaws that they can create a subcommittee to do applications. So
Actually,
they
civil-
can create a subcommittee,
Civil
but they don't
service
have
was
to.
merged with the personnel committee. I don't think it was really, I mean, technically wording wise, it was, but in reality, it was merged with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of questions. It's up to the personnel committee what you want to do with it. But my question is, in writing, if this civil service subcommittee or civil service, or anybody who, or is it required that civil service personnel committee review applications?
Well, like I said, every other community I've polled so far
What's
is,
that?
like I said, every other community that I've polled has gotten away from doing this.
maybe they do it a different way.
Yeah.
Maybe
Personnel.
they're not following the law. I
Their
don't know.
HR director does it.
It doesn't hurt to honor your request to ask for the opinion.
Pardon?
It does not hurt to honor your request to ask for an opinion. You ask for an opinion and whether or not this is binding.
Yes.
So, do we need to make a motion for that?
Or
Or
table
Make
it.
a
No.
motion to table.
table it?
Table it, yeah. I'd like to see alternatives, or does everybody feel that we shouldn't be reviewing it? I think we should, but
It's just one comment. I won't be too wordy. It's difficult, for a number of years I've been on a committee, it's still difficult for me to relate to what you do, because I've never been aware of what you do, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can't really make an objective judgment on that. The people that are on the committee would be able to share what they do. Because we never rotate that, that's never rotated. It's like,
It's a
it's
volunteer.
another thing, but
yeah,
yeah.
it's a volunteer.
Yeah.
There's no,
But I'm getting us off point here. All I'm saying is you're asking a question, and I'm saying that for as long as I've been here, I can't really give you an honest answer because I don't know what you do. So, that's all.
I'll just kind of walk through it. We have a meeting when there's the new hire coming on board, and the list is called by HR director to give us a list of the candidates that are qualified, those that aren't qualified and why they aren't qualified, and those that are marginally qualified. And then we go through and say, okay, go ahead, and based on that information, we'll look to see, like, are the top 10 qualified? We'll ask questions, maybe not a lot of questions, but if there is a question, and then Dana will answer it, and then we approve a list of 10 people out of maybe 20 or 30 that do meet the qualifications to go ahead and do the hiring or do the interview process, from which they will take that list for a while, will stand, and be available for the next hiring cycle or a period of time. And that's basically what we do. We look it over, we see who's qualified, who isn't qualified, we ask some questions, and move on to the department head and personnel do the hiring process.
Do you ever recommend anybody that isn't qualified?
no.
No.
What we do is we recommend approval of a list of, depending on how many people. The department head then takes that list and determines who they want to interview and hire. So all we're doing, not all, but what we're doing is certifying a list of candidates, potential candidates, and denying some based on their qualifications or test scores or experience, whatever it might be. These lists stay in effect for generally a year. So if somebody else has another opening, go to the list.
I guess I'm a little confused if you're not certifying anybody that's not qualified. This extra step sounds kind of redundant, that you're only getting a list of qualified people.
No, we're getting I'm exaggerating this, we might have a list of 100 people.
Okay.
20 of them may have filed a form late or not put in important information or not put a resume in. Those we don't certify. Other ones may not be good candidates because of their experience or lack of required experience. So those we don't. But then we got a list of generally the people who qualify and who are qualified for hiring. So yes, we do disqualify certain people.
But you're not disqualifying You're not recommending anybody who isn't qualified.
Generally, no.
So
No.
I guess that's where I'm confused. Why, you're not going to recommend somebody who's not qualified.
Well, it's a
So-
checks and balance.
But what are you checking? I guess that's
Could
what
we do a civil service run through at the next personnel, so just like we would normally do
That might
10
be
minutes
helpful.
later at the end of the program, just so they could see what the process is? I'm not vested in another
So
meeting,
make
but it's
sure
something
that-
that I volunteered for to be there. But maybe just to walk through one of these to see what the process is, so the
Yeah.
board understands it
I'm
better.
kind of in the same place where Richard is, that I haven't been to a committee meeting, but just from looking
Just
at,
what would be typical, Dana, about, heavy equipment operator or something, that would be a dispatcher maybe?
Good idea.
if there's something that's really specific that I guess I'm missing, I think that would be a good idea.
And somebody might have a job like heavy equipment operator. There may be qualifications, that they have so much experience with this and whatever kind of training, stuff like that. And there's all the time people come through that don't have the qualifications. They just apply for jobs. And we disqualify those and put the other ones up for hiring, potential hiring.
Do you put those people on the list if they're not qualified now?
I put them at the very bottom and they say that they should not be certified.
Okay.
And that's our review process, to make sure that.
But you don't certify
Well,
any
no,
of
but we would
those.
want to make sure of why they're not being certified.
Oh, okay.
And that's the
So
check
you-
and balance.
You're not certifying the qualified people, you're reviewing why we've felt.
No, we're certifying.
We're certified and qualified, but we want to make sure that, it's like, not that Dana would do anything that would hurt us in any way, but it's just the check and balance to make sure that the people that aren't being certified have a fair chance at the same job.
Okay. That clarifies it. Thank you.
Okay.
So where are we?
I'd like to table it until next month, when we could have maybe John be here as well to express the administration's.
I thought there was already a motion to table. Who made the motion to table before? Wasn't it me?
I don't think there was one, was it? We said could make it.
Yeah, I'm making it.
No,
I'll second it then.
You're second, okay.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded to table this with the addition of a written opinion of if civil service committee
And an example.
is mandated by law or its equivalent. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 9, election of officers. Every July, we should elect officers, but kind of short of people then, some are off with busted up knees and everything else, so we table it until this month. So, the two officers are the chairman and chairperson, and the assistant chairperson. So is there any motions to nominate a chairperson?
Can I nominate a person?
Yes.
I nominate Dale Winkle.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to nominate me as chairperson. Is there any other further nominations? Hearing none, close the chairperson nominations. Presently, Alderman
Don't we vote?
Yeah, let's vote.
okay.
We vote.
Any further comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. position of assistant chairperson is presently Alderman Barber. Is there any motions to nominate somebody for chairperson, assistant chairperson?
I nominate Alderman Barber.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to nominate Alderman Barber. Is there any other further nominations? Hearing none, nominations is closed. All in favor of Alderman Barber?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Future agenda items. Insurance renewals need approval at October meeting.
Staffing report we passed over.
Oh, I skipped that. Excuse me. Dan, staffing report?
The only thing I'll add to the sheet that's already in the packet is an update on the community service officer position. They found out after I put this out that the person that they thought they were going to hire for the position did not pass the background check. They're now thinking about whether they still really want to fill that position or not, so it may never get filled. And the others were the community service officer. It's a part-time quasi-police officer.
Someone in school.
Yeah.
That was hired to kind of maybe.
Somebody that does a lot of police duties, but they're not a sworn officer.
Okay.
Item 11. Was there any further questions, comments? Okay, item 11. Future agenda items. Insurance renewals need approval at October meeting. Scott Fuller, I'm assuming, will be here in October.
I assume so.
Comp study and employee survey. Is this going to be at the October meeting?
The insurance one will. I doubt that the other two items will.
Was that?
The insurance one definitely will. I don't know that the other two items would be.
We can add item 8 from our today agenda, right?
Yep.
The one we tabled today, we can add it to the future.
The
And the city attorney, yep.
The city attorney.
Yes.
So this so
This employee survey has been on there for a long time. I mean, can we get some of these done? I'm not trying to pick on you, but you know, it has to be done. All
Well, we
right.
talked about it quite a bit, I think, while you were off on your medical leave, so I don't know how much more we're going to necessarily do with the employee survey.
Yeah, I'm not sure what
Yeah.
this is all about. I mean, I know what the survey is about, but I don't know what the reason for it is.
Wasn't there going to be some kind of a communication plan to employees, or did I miss that?
No.
Well,
I
employees were
recall
sent
that.
all that. It was sent out to employees.
One of the things, those of you who invite certain departments to the personnel
Yeah.
committee meetings and stuff, that was what recommendation that came out of that kind of a study.
Right.
And we haven't done that. Part of that, is that kind of gone by the wayside then?
No.
Volunteers or?
It is definitely still planned. Kelly's been very busy, obviously, with the budget, and I don't think she's told any of the employees who's first. So I would assume by next month, we'll likely have other people at the meeting.
So that was an outgrowth of the employee survey, wanting to know more about what was going on. I think that was where
Yeah.
it came out of that. So that's the follow-up part of that I think we should look at.
We've used the employee survey for things like knowing what insurance benefits employees want, so we've been cognizant of that. We put in the Roth plans, things like that. So we've acted on quite a few things that were in the employee survey. I just don't know how many more things that we're still going to address.
Yeah, it would be the action items that resulted out of this.
Yeah.
And we never had a list of the action items. And you've done a lot of things, probably just.
Okay.
Does everybody, Alderman, I don't think you have the employee survey.
No, I don't have.
Does everybody else still have it?
Yeah, I have it, it's right here.
Right, do you have
I
it?
don't know, I don't think I do.
Can Frank and Alderwoman, I can get a copy?
Thank you.
Yeah, because, you know, it's good to do an employee survey, but if there isn't any response or, and some of the communication might be just, here's what we've responded to, so people know that we did the survey and something happened. Otherwise, the next time you do a survey, they're gonna say, nothing happened. So I think we
Yep.
need to remind them that we are doing things, and here are the things we're doing.
And what we're asking for is a lot of work, because there's an awful lot in the survey,
Yeah.
in different categories. So.
Okay. Is there any other future agenda items that anybody thinks? Okay. All right. Next scheduled meeting is October 21st. Item 13, adjournment. Does anybody make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stupid question.